I live with 13 dead cats, a purple dog that wears spats. They're all living out in the hall, and I can't stand it anymore.
Welcome to the This Art Johnny Domino podcast. My name is Steve.
And my name is Giles. And this is the one-stop shop for outsider art, unpopular opinions about music, and very specific nostalgia.
It's true. Every episode, we listen to songs that we wrote and recorded from our adolescence onwards. And we did it for a lot longer than we probably should have done. And we're still kind of doing it as well. And it's a very specific niche market that we're going for. We're talking men in their...
Oh, stop it.
In their 50s. Well, we are. These are.
We're not. I'm not going for that audience. It's just that is the audience.
I'm not saying we're cynically going, no, there's a gap in the market. Who's looking after the media needs of middle-aged men?
From Derby.
Specifically from the East Midlands of England.
We are. But not exclusively. Anyone could listen to this, right? I'm convinced that anybody could listen to this and get something out of it. I think there's good vibes here.
I think so too. I think we're both trying to force ourselves to be up this evening, so I think we should go for it. Every episode, we listen to songs that we wrote and recorded at home years and years ago. We talk about them, but increasingly we are also seeking recordings made by other people that they probably did back in the day. And we can talk about them as well.
We can do that. We can. And anyway, you know, Lou Reed, I was just quoting some Lou Reed lyrics there, right? You know, an unpopular opinion about Lou Reed. I'll see what you think about this. The New York album that he recorded is a great Lou Reed album.
I don't think that's a particularly niche opinion. It's not one that I agree with.
Yeah. So is it an unpopular opinion on this podcast?
No, probably not. I'm probably very much in the minority of people who are interested in the Velvet Underground and Lou Reed in general. I just don't like it. I can't get past that late 80s snare sound.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's hampered by a bad drum sound, that album. But if you can get past it though, it's really good.
There's some fretless bass on there as well, which I'm not a fan of.
I've got a problem with that. I once sat in a room with a man who played me the whole of the New York album. This was in the 90s, from start to finish on his acoustic guitar. He played every song, every lyric, and that was before I'd actually heard the actual album. And this man was from the northeast of England, possibly Newcastle, and there's only one other person in the room with us. And he basically played the whole album. And now whenever I hear the New York album by Lou Reed, I hear it in a Geordie accent.
And reader, I married him.
He's ganning oot to the dirty boulevard. He's ganning doon to the dirty boulevard. That's the way I hear it.
That'd be a better album.
And that's why I love the album.
There is a line that I always quote, which is, stick a fork in my ass and turn me over, I'm done.
That is a good one.
I'm probably paraphrasing it and getting it horribly wrong, but I don't own a copy of that album. I think I probably gave it to you.
Yeah, and I lost it, and then I bought another copy of the album. Beautiful, and then I gave that away, and then I bought another copy of the album. So Lou Reed had his estate has had quite a lot of money off me for that.
That's very nice. Yes. Right. Shall we go into the first song?
Jingle.
This is the most fantastic story I've ever heard.
And every word of it's true, too.
That's the fantastic part of it.
Right. The first song we're going to listen to today is one of our songs, isn't it? And it's one that we wrote in about 5 minutes. And it's utterly stupid. But, you know, it's probably about as deep as anything we ever did write.
I think so. The brevity of the writing and composing experience may be apparent when you listen to this song.
Yeah.
We wrote and recorded a lot of songs as Johnny Domino, and then for some reason we got bored on a bank holiday and we formed a Johnny Domino side shoot band called Jimmy Dorito. It was a wet bank holiday and we challenged ourselves to write 8 songs in 4 hours, and we wrote a series of song titles down, and this is one of them. And the song title that was written down for this one was I Lick You.
You know what, though? Actually, I think what we wrote, I think this is one of those classic misreading situations, right? Because I think what I actually wrote was I like you.
Well, I'm going to correct you on that, because in my memory, we didn't write it down on a piece of paper. I think we may have typed it up on a computer, a home computer, and printed it out. And then I wrote I like you, and then you changed it to I lick you.
Okay, well, there was some sort of confusion there. So it's called I Lick You. You got to say yeah. Say yes. I will do.
I'm going to stop it for a minute and just...
Okay, go on. The keyboard notes are very good, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, for new listeners, this is quite hardcore. A bit of lo-fi arsing around for you to come in on. If this is your first episode, I can only apologise. There are better songs to come, but this was prime lo-fi arsing around.
I think people come here for this, Steve.
Okay, that's cool. Just when that keyboard notes just kicked in, it made me go, Can
we have it again?
Oh, yeah, it's challenging.
You got to say yeah. Say yes. I will do. Something about something, I forgot what it was. Looking around the house for something new. Going to the shops, getting stuff for the pain. Talking about the universe again. You talk to me. Sort of a shit. Why am I here with you? You talk to me, and I lick you. You annoy me, and I lick you. You forget me. You only go to places full of people that I That's not a happy crowd, is it? That's a terrorised crowd at the end there. They're scared, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah. A while ago, we talked about my old music teacher, Barbara Plant, and she gave us the term through composed for pieces of music that were effectively made up as they went along. I'm going to use another word, not necessarily one that I got from Barbara Plant. The word is aleatory.
Yeah,
aleatory, which is depending on the throw of a dice or on chance. Random, relating to or denoting music or other forms of art involving elements of random choice. I think when we were recording my vocal, the sped up backing vocal, you turned the telly on in my bedroom, and that was what was on. So there's a siren going off, and I don't know if you changed the channel, and then you got a screaming crowd, but that was just what was on.
Yeah. And I think that sort of chance thing's quite good. Lots of fun with a 4-track you can have, isn't there?
Lots of fun, yes. It was a very dull bank holiday, and we made our own fun.
And I don't know. I like the chance element thing. You know, I don't know. I might be wrong, but I sort of heard something about, you know, when the Beatles did all that stuff with like putting radio on some of their songs.
Yes.
I think that was just by chance, wasn't it? They just turned the radio on. They didn't do it they didn't plan it.
That was every bit as good as I Am the Walrus. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying we were doing the same thing.
Yes, we were.
We were doing the same thing. And is it? Yeah, it's every bit as good. Anyway, I like anything that's kind of a bit stupid anyway, really. And I think it, I don't know, for me, I like that. And they're the sort of songs that I remember the most, really. The more stupid ones that we were just kind of arsing around, really.
Having a laugh.
Having a laugh, yeah. There was another really stupid song. You've got to trace this song. I was talking to you about it the other day. That I Love Your Belly song.
Yes.
We didn't write it. Who wrote
No,
that? Who wrote that song?
Now, that was back in the days. I worked at Virgin Megastore, which was like a very boring kind of music shop, but it was always nice to work in a record shop. And I worked with a lad called James, and he was in a band called the Carrie Nations. I thought, what's the film that the Carrie Nations are from? Is it Valley of the Dolls?
It could be.
I think it's the Valley of the Dolls. And he was in a band called the Carrie Nations, and we used to talk a lot about music, occasionally get into trouble for taking the piss out of customers and egg each other on in that sort of way. And the Carrie Nations had a song called the Belly Song, and it was great. And we really liked it.
I still remember it, and I really need to hear it, Steve.
I know. I don't.
And I want to play it on the podcast. The chorus is something like "I love your belly,"
but do you love your belly too?
You've got to find that song.
I love your belly, but do you love your belly too?
See, that's good.
I actually played lead guitar for the Carrie Nations at a gig. They were playing at an art happening, which was weirdly enough being held at the Assembly Rooms in Derby. And they decided, right, the last song in the set is going to be Helter Skelter. And I was going to run on stage and play lead guitar for them. And I did. And it was great. Except the promoters absolutely hated because they wanted them to get off the stage 5 minutes before they started playing Helter Skelter.
Oh, crikey.
But, you know.
Was it as good as the Beatles version?
It was every bit as good. And I actually had blisters on my fingers at the end of it.
Did you? Very nice.
I did. But anyway, it was good fun.
Anyway, that song, I Lick You, potentially could be included in our The Best Of This Our Johnny Domino collection, which is now almost at 2 volumes. You can listen to the first volume on Spotify. Yeah. Please do. It's got some good tracks on it. And the second one is going to be out soon.
Yes, I just need to finish it off.
And also, we've got another album of stuff from the podcast called All Them Trimmings, which is a collection of songs or collection of song by people who listen to the podcast and get engaged with our engagement opportunities. Don't they, Steve? Yeah.
They do get engaged
and they got engaged with this particular engagement opportunity, and then we put all the songs together on Spotify through Artists Against Success, and it's good. So go and listen to it. And we've got more engagement opportunities happening all the time.
We do. In fact, we're going to be talking about a couple of them right now, aren't we? I mean, do you think the songs that we're going to talk about next are part of the Eternal Halls of the 4-Track Gods?
They could be.
They could be.
They could. I think. In fact, do you know what? Thinking about them, I think these songs could possibly take up a very, very high position on the altar of the Eternal Halls of the 4-Track Gods.
Space for the long tail on the delay there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to talk about these because you've got the background.
Okay, they say it themselves somewhere, but this possibly could be one of the greatest lo-fi bands you've never heard of. And this is a band called Tommytwentytoes that were made from the remnants of 2 bands from Leeds University at about the time that I was there, featuring Simon Gatemouth Richardson, who was in last episode, and Stan, who was in a couple of episodes before, and a couple of other guys. And I could have been in this band. I feel I like to flatter myself. I could have been in this band, but I was too busy traveling back to Ilkeston to make music with my brother. Really, I think it wouldn't have been the same band if I'd been involved. But I really like their stuff, and it is pure lo-fi madness. The first track we're going to listen to is a cover version of sorts of the song Lonesome Pine, made famous by being featured in the Laurel and Hardy movie, Way Out West. I've got a bit of a story to tell you about it afterwards.
On a mountain in Virginia stands a lonesome pine. Just below is a cabin, home of a little girl of mine. Her name is June, and very, very soon she'll belong to me, for I know she's waiting there for me, beneath that lone pine tree. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome pine, in the pale moonshine, our hearts entwine, where she carved a name and I carved mine. Oh June, like the mountains of blue, like the pine I am lonesome for you. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome pine. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome pine.
There you go. What do you reckon to that?
I think it's lovely. I remember liking that at the time, because did they press up a 7-inch single?
They did. And
They
that's
did.
what I'm going to tell you the story about that.
Ooh, good.
So that was Tommytwentytoes. And yes, it was pressed up as a single. And being very good boys, they actually contacted EMI to tell them that they were putting the single out with a version of the song on it, because EMI apparently owned the rights to the Laurel and Hardy song, right?
Excellent.
And naively, they wrote a letter to EMI. And they got a letter back saying they weren't allowed to use the words and that it was to be broadcast nowhere in the universe in capital letters.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah, yeah. Then they discovered that the words were actually out of copyright, but the music was not out of copyright. And actually, they hadn't even used the music. They'd just written their own music to it. So they weren't infringing any copyright. So they wrote another letter back to EMI saying they were going to do it anyway.
Hey.
And yeah. And they got another letter back with a contract and a check for 5 pence saying that EMI owned their recording and they weren't allowed to make any more than the 500 copies that they pressed. Can you believe that?
I think that shows a level of humour that I would not have thought anyone in EMI could ever have.
Do you think that's humour, or is that record company fuckery?
I think it's a bit of both. I think it does show a bit of a sense of humour to say, with 5 pence, we own your recording.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a bit fuckery, but
there you go. But
I mean, I almost want to applaud them.
But anyway, Simon says that they didn't even sell one copy, so fuck you, EMI. That's what he says.
Yeah, man. Well, they did sell one. They sold it to EMI for 5 pence.
There you go.
So, was it a check for 5 pence, or was it a 5 pence piece?
What, like a 5p, sort of like sellotaped to a postcard or something? No, it was an actual check. It was a check.
That's amazing.
5p. So imagine, I'd quite like to see that check. I'm sure one of them's probably got it. Anyway, I find their recordings very evocative. I'll put a link on the show notes so you can listen to some more of them. But I'm going to play you another one because I think, I really do think this is peak 4-track gods material, right?
Okay.
I'd like to hear more from anyone else. So if anyone else has got any of this kind of like screwing around on a 4-track kind of stuff, please send us some more. We want to hear it, right? But here is another one. And with this one, the visuals I'm getting here is a smoke-filled room, a full ashtray, curtains drawn, sort of sunlight kind of coming through the crack in the curtains, and cups of tea.
And Rizzlers.
And this is called God in My Teacup.
Goes on. I hit rain. I went to the toilet and dwell on what had been said. I lifted up the seat, and there he was. His white coat was all grubby and wet. He spoke of a land where the sun always shone and suggested it was time for a change. I prayed for rain. So he made me a world where the sun never shone. It was the size of a small room. I was like a little lost boy. Sat by the window. I flushed the toilet and I prayed for rain. I flushed the toilet and I prayed for rain.
Do not adjust your set.
I've listened to that 3 times today for various reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably about it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I thought that might be you playing the bass.
No, it was not. I think it's Simon, actually.
Okay. But I don't think the person who is narrating the story was particularly into the idea of being recorded.
Oh, I think he was.
Was it?
Yeah, it's Joe. Yeah, and sadly, Joe's no longer with us, actually.
Aww.
But he was a good guy. He was a good guy with a dark sense of humour. And he was also a very, very talented and skilled artist, actually. But yeah, sadly, he's no longer on this world. But, it's great to hear him. And it's great to hear that. I listen to that a lot.
That is peak 4-track recording.
It is. Rewind the podcast and turn it up and listen to it again through some speakers and annoy people.
Yeah, let's have a bit more delay on it.
Yeah, some more delay.
Why not have a bit more delay? Well, I think obviously they need to go into the eternal halls of the 4-track gods.
Oh, definitely. They're there. They're
there already. Maybe they were already there.
They may have built it.
But I do love the story of 5 pence from EMI. That is astounding. I love it.
It's a good one.
I wasn't sure about the Johnny Domino podcast, but I gave it a chance, and now I think I love it.
So onwards. Let's keep going. We're kind of. I think we're having a bit of a. I think it's a bit of an avant-garde episode here.
Okay.
Right. So we are now gonna get into another engagement opportunity. Actually, we're just engaging in our own engagement opportunity here because a few episodes back we kind of said, "Come on, guys, let's record some stuff to do with childhood." or, that's reminiscent of childhood. Because you know what? That's the kind of thing that people like. Think of bands like Punk Rock Factory.
Oh, not again.
Let's think of them again, right?
They've got enough from this podcast.
Yeah, I know, but look, they were the people who kind of sparked it off in my head, and I want to be an alternative to Punk Rock Factory. They can't corner the market for nostalgic versions of songs.
I know.
We should be doing it too, right? So we're tapping into the collective memory here, right? This is going back to 1984.
Yes.
Right? If you were there, you might remember this.
I do remember this. Can I just say, I think eventually we're going to get a 5 pence check from Punk Rock Factory to say, please stop mentioning us on your podcast. I think that'd be quite good.
I'll frame it.
Yes, so we've had people sending in theme tunes to TV programs or songs that are about childhood, and this is kind of adjacent to it. Do we need to say anything more to it? I think our core demographic of people will know exactly what this is once it starts. Do you think?
Well, let's see what they think. Let's see if they can figure it out. Take a break. Have a break. Have a Kit Kat. What do you think? You can't sing. You can't play. You look awful. You'll go a long way. All the way back to 1984.
Now, when I was growing up, I used to watch a lot of TV, but my favourite things on the telly were usually the adverts. And that was an advert for the UK chocolate confectionery Kit Kat.
Oh, yes.
So I'm sure everybody knows what happened in that advert, but the scene was a record company office. There was a man in a suit who was obviously the record company manager.
He was looking a bit bored, wasn't he? Looking a bit bored.
And a group of mid-80s punk types, the ones never seen on the streets, only seen in UK light entertainment. Yes. And they were playing their song.
One of them was hitting a white vase with drumsticks.
Yes, and the rest of them were kind of banging their heads and singing along. And he stops the tape and says, I think we should take a break, and delivered the immortal lines. You can't sing. You can't play. You look awful. You'll go a long way. And that's the end of the advert. And it's a classic. So if we're doing songs from childhood, the things that affected me the most were usually the adverts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, obviously, we like the idea of doing it because we thought it was funny. But also, when you dig into it a bit deeper, right, actually, it's a pretty good advert. And all the best adverts, it taps into something that's prevalent in the culture of the time. And I think it really does sum up the perception of popular music, that type of popular music, by the sort of general public.
The
at
man.
That point. Yeah, by the man in 1984. It's
your mums and dads.
Yeah, your mums and dads' view of pop music, what bands were like, kind of thing. And also, it just, the whole thing kind of just really stuck in your head. The song stuck in your head. And also just the sentiment, you'll go a long way, that kind of thing. It's hilarious.
As I say, it was a depiction of punk rock that was not seen on the streets. It was only in light entertainment. And it reminded me of one of my favourites, right? Now, you probably won't remember this. There was this awful sitcom called Keep It in the Family. It was on telly from 1980 to 1983. And about a cartoonist whose name was Dudley, who lives in an upstairs flat with his wife, while his daughters live in the flat below. right? And there's an episode.
I remember it.
No, but there's an episode which I have never forgotten where there's like a vicar who always comes. I mean, it's one of those sitcoms. A vicar's always coming around the house, and he's writing a song called Anarchy, right?
Yeah.
And the cartoonist daughters, they thought it was amazing, and they all got dressed up as punks. They got all their best punk gear on.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was a gentle piano ballad about a woman called Anna, whose surname was Key. And I think it goes, Anarchy, Anarchy, I'm in love with... I mean, I can't remember where my keys are. I can remember that. I'm in love with Anarchy.
I wonder if that exists anywhere.
No, it really isn't. I've been searching.
Have you searched?
Dude, I have.
Because you know what? Now you mention it, I can kind of vaguely remember that as well. Yeah.
I mean, I've only got like verification. It was from a comedy website, and after describing that episode, it says hilarity almost ensued, which I think is a very funny line. But yeah. That was. I mean, that's obviously a terrible program, but the advert was great. And it did make me think of some of my other favourite adverts from the time.
Yeah,
Can I hit you with some?
Go on. Go on. Tell us some more. Go on. Roll with it.
Let's enter the retro void.
Yeah.
Will it be chips or jacket spuds? Will it be salad or frozen peas? Will it be mushroom, fried onion rings?
You'll have to wait and see.
From the Bird's Eye Steakhouse Lean Juicy Steakhouse Grills, pure ground beef that you've cooked like a steak and served like a steak. What'll you give your old man with his steakhouse grill?
Hope it's chips. We hope it's chips.
Beef grills and lamb grills, more sizzlers from the Bird's Eye Steakhouse.
What will you give your old man? What will you give your old man? Because he's been out at work talking about what he wants for his tea, and he wants some chips.
I'm swaying backwards and forwards listening to that one. That's
now,
cute.
one of the actors that appeared in that advert, he only appears very, very briefly in the advert, but he's a face that you will recognise. His name was Daniel Peacock. He was in the comic strip quite a lot. He was in Quadrophenia. He was in Supergrass. I Brought a Vampire Motorcycle. All these terrible... Whoops, Apocalypse. He was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Carry On Columbus. He also played young Jacques Clouseau in Trail of the Pink Panther. And he appeared in The Jewel of the Nile. And he also appeared as a teddy boy in this advert.
Okay.
How do it, all do it. What they do it for. Won't somebody tell? You've only been you it. How do it, all do it. You can bet we've been doing it as well.
Do It All are doing Contiplast leather look shelving $229 and Marley super soft flooring from $775. They're doing ring fluorescent light fittings $599 and 50% off polycell double
$599.
50%.
If only we knew it. How do it, all do it. You can bet we've been doing it as well.
You can bet we'd be doing it as well.
Yeah, 3 teddy boys spivs skipping around outside Do It All, which was, I think it was owned by W.H. Smith, but it was like a budget DIY type place, and they were dancing around there. We can't, how do It All do it? What do they do it for? Won't somebody tell? He does some really good comedy glares at the camera because he can't believe the prices that Do It All are doing.
Can't believe it.
He can't understand it. He's been in loads of stuff, and
very good, very good. Have you got any more?
No, that'll do for now. I think we've gone into a retro void, but
I've got to carry. I've just got one more thing to say. I just want to go back to the alien invasion. Right?
Oh yes, sorry.
I'm still wanting a Kit Kat. Right?
Yeah.
It's made me hungry. But the actor that played the manager, name's Gavin Richards. Right? He's most famous for being in EastEnders, and he was also in Allo Allo. And he played Captain Alberto Bertorelli, the Italian. And do you remember that? He used to say vaguely rubbish Italian, slightly racist accents like "beautiful lady" and "what a mistake to make."
What a mistake to make!
What a mistake to make! That was his phrase. And also, I can't verify this, but there is a theory on the internet that the dad's favourite, Carol Smiley, is one of the girls in that Kit Kat advert.
No.
Apparently so. Apparently
wow.
so.
That's something. I like that.
Jingle.
Sorry, I haven't got any more, mate. I've got so
you
many.
must have one.
I've got so many clips. The soundboard is full. I'll put one in the edit, but
we'll have one in the edit, right? We'll have one in the edit. Put a big one in the edit.
I'll put a big one in the edit.
A big one in the edit.
It's the Johnny Domino podcast. Give it a chance.
Where we going now?
Well, it's going for an actual Johnny Domino song that was recorded for our 4th collection of songs in an album format. The album was called Solid Ground, and this song is also called Solid Ground. Now, do we need to give a content warning for this one?
Oh, I don't know, do we? I mean, I think there's stuff to discuss, definitely. I mean, this is not just a matter of us kind of playing something and going, hey, look at how great our old music was. There's elements of this that have not dated particularly well.
Absolutely.
But maybe we can discuss that afterwards. Let's enjoy the pastoral sounds of Solid Ground.
Stories in me, you couldn't make it up. She is the one good reason that I should love my life. And when I'm feeling lonely, full of that sad stuff, put down my instrument, slowly and surely just back off. My birthday, I tried the radio hats, I'll break it by tomorrow. Yes, you can count on that. So won't you bring me my tea in a cup that is gay and I'll spin like a record. Oh, so obviously, Solid Ground is here with me. And beside me it will stay. Solid Ground.
Powerful.
It is powerful.
Powerful.
But I can't help feeling that we've let ourselves down.
Oh, look, let's just talk about the music first.
Yes.
Tell us about the music, Steve. What do you think about the music? What do you like? Do you like the music?
I love the music. I love the music. I like the fact it's Roadrunner in a way. It's like it's your classic 3 chords of modern rock and roll. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to do, I think in my head, I was trying to be like John McLaughlin from the Mahavishnu Orchestra and various other jazz type bands.
Mm.
I think after a while, I realized that I was actually playing a twisted version of a song by our friend Frankie Machine called 1973.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's very, very similar, the guitar riff. And if you remember...
Ooh, can we hear that song next episode?
Oh, yeah, I was going to drop a bit in there. But yeah, I'll drop a bit in underneath.
But yeah, maybe we can hear the whole thing next episode.
Yeah, definitely. But can you remember we were going to do a split single with Frankie Machine? He was going to do a version of that song, Solid Ground, and we were going to do 1973.
Oh, why didn't we do that?
Well, I think we were doing it with the express purpose of getting played on the John Peel show, and then he went and died.
Darn it!
He went and died.
Darn it!
So we never done it.
Foiled again.
But Frankie Machine did put a remix album out, which was called "Blow Me Out in Rings," I think, and bits of the instrumental that we worked up as our version of 1973. He sang over them.
Oh, never heard that.
Well, there you go.
Can we dig into that next episode as well?
Let's do them both.
There you go, flagging up next episode. That's like very podcasty, isn't it? You know, like professional.
It's almost like we're planning it.
Yeah, it's like we're working it out as we go along. Yeah, so that's the classic iteration of the Johnny Domino band with the full band lineup. We played that one live quite a bit, didn't we?
I remember particular we did, I think it was the first gig we did with the Jeff Bott 3000. That was the first song in the set, and it was in a pub called the Blessington Carriage, beloved of students of Derby. And we were playing with the solo female folk guitarist who was on the same bill as us, and we were on after her. And we did our usual thing where we had a bit of a jam to kind of get the levels right, because we didn't like doing sound checks. We just tended to try to figure out the levels as we were doing it. And Jeff used to like to do a thing where he didn't do a counting on that song. We just sort of like go, and we were the only people that could hear it. And the lady who was supporting us, she was sat with her back to the stage. So we did the silent counting, and we cracked into that full pelt. And I remember seeing her jump quite a lot.
That was a very long story.
Yeah, well, it's quite dull, isn't it?
I thought you were just going to say she dropped a pint.
No, she didn't drop a pint. I just remember she was sat with her back to us, and we did quite well at that gig, and we sold a few CDs.
Well, there you go.
My favourite thing was somebody came up to me and said, "How much are they?" I said, £4. He said, "Can you do me a deal for 2?" I said, £8. He said, "Brilliant." So there you go. That's marketing at work.
Hooray for GCSE maths.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, the lyrics.
Problematic lyrics.
Solid ground is here with me, and beside me it will stay. So obviously I'm lying down.
Yes.
Right? It took me a while to figure that out. And then there's a line, yesterday was my birthday, I got a radio hat. That is, I have to say, directly from the TV program The Office, the episode in series 1 where Tim has his 30th birthday, and Tim gets a radio hat from his mum as a present, and he's really not happy about it. So yeah, I basically just watched The Office and then wrote that lyric. And then there's a line, this is the one I think that you think is problematic. It says, "Won't you bring me my tea in a cup that is gay?"
Yes.
followed by, and I'll spin like a record, oh so obviously.
The spin me like a record is not the problematic line.
No, but it relates, doesn't it? Because it's like, obviously, Dead or Alive, Pete Burns.
No, I didn't link the two lines together. All I heard was, I mean, the thing about, here's a story, and the question is, why did Mark stay in the band for as long as he did? Because throughout music history, in orchestras, the viola player is the butt of all the jokes. In most bands, the drummer is the butt of all the jokes. And to all intents and purposes, in the 4-person lineup of Johnny Domino, where we had a drum machine, Mark was the drummer.
So are you saying he was the butt of all the jokes?
He and he took it very good-naturedly. But the Johnny Domino writing and recording experience was fueled almost solely by cups of tea. Mark was the only one who had sugar in his tea. So to mark it out, we always gave him a flowery teacup. So we knew that was Mark's cup of tea because it got sugar in it.
Yeah. So it was gaily coloured in the old sense of the word.
Yeah. I don't think we meant
is that revisionist history, right?
I believe that is revisionist history.
Okay,
I think we meant it in the pejorative sense, being children who grew up in the 1980s and 90s.
Yeah.
And yes.
It's a pity. It
is a real pity.
Because, in my day job, I do quite often have to pull people up for using the word gay in a negative sense. Right, young people, and obviously I have to be very disgusted with it and explain why it's wrong. And there I am, writing it in a pop song.
Yeah, I never drew a link between the line about the cup of tea that is gay.
Well, it's not a link, but it's like, spin round like a record, baby. The classic Dead or Alive song, which I love, actually.
Yeah.
And
don't say it like that, because it sounds like you're going, I'm not a homophobe, I like Dead or Alive.
Well, I hope that people listening to this probably would realise that we're not the sort of people that are homophobic, right?
I think so.
And we weren't then, I don't think, really.
No, God, no.
It was just we would like many people. That's not an excuse. Like many people, we were quite thoughtless and didn't really put two and two together at that point. But times moved on. Anyway, that particular song by Dead or Alive is one of my favourites. And I just watched the video of it recently, the original video, and it's brilliant. It made me think I really miss those kind of 90s, 80s pop stars, going back to the Kit Kat advert, that were like really shit at dancing and not particularly good looking and couldn't really sing.
Yeah.
But they were still pop stars, right?
Yeah.
And the video is so cheap and tacky and brilliant. It's got like disco balls. There are members of the band waving flags.
Yeah.
And they look really, the other members of the band look quite uncomfortable being kind of wrapped up by a giant ribbon. It's just brilliant and just so cobbled together.
Yeah.
And it's so different to sort of like the really polished pop performances that you see kind of these days. It's just like, back in those days, it seemed like anyone could be a pop star, really. You didn't have to be particularly good looking.
No.
Or talented.
Or be looking for a particularly long career. You think about like one-hit wonders, and I mean, they weren't a one-hit wonder, but you think about a pop star like Billy McKenzie from The Associates. Yeah. And, that song, Party Fears 2, that's absolutely nuts.
Mental.
It's an absolutely mental song. And it was a chart hit. And it's just mental what you were allowed to get away with, particularly in the 80s.
Oh my God. This is turning out to be a very 80s episode.
When I were a lad, growing up, watching the adverts on the telly.
It's nice going back to the 80s and thinking about it. I'm enjoying it, Steve. It's good. Hopefully the listeners are enjoying it too.
Hopefully so.
I wonder if Mum and Dad have still got that cup.
I can't even remember which one it was. At this point in the podcast, we tend to choose one of the songs that we've listened to go on the next volume of the very best of this Our Johnny Domino. We have got I Lick You
and
Solid Ground.
Oh, a hard decision.
But yes,
hard decision. Can we change the words to Solid Ground? Can we do another version of it and just change the words to a more updated version? Should we whitewash the less than acceptable lyrics?
I'm not going to get the 8-track tapes out. I'm not going to get the 8-track out.
Well, then we're going to have to go with I Lick You then.
It's going to be I Lick You. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
The album Solid Ground is on Spotify.
Yeah.
But
if you can handle it.
There's probably some fairly obnoxious stuff on the rest of the album anyway.
Yeah, maybe. There's plenty more where that came from. We've got lots more dodgy stuff to talk about from our back catalogue coming up. Oh, yes.
Great.
Oh, yes. Worse than that, some dodgy stuff.
Thank you for listening to the This Are Johnny Domino podcast. If you are enjoying it...
Just hang on there a moment, though, Steve. Just one more little thing.
Sorry.
One more little thing, okay? For some reason, well, actually, I do know the reason. I've been thinking about Frank Sidebottom.
Yes.
Who put it on Facebook? Who was it?
That'll be me.
You put it on Facebook. It was you, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. So you put the song Material Boy on Facebook, didn't you? From Frank's Firm Favourites, right? Which also includes a version of You Spin Me Round Like a Record.
As part of the medley, yes.
And part of the medley, doesn't it? Yeah.
I got my sights on you now, baby.
I've been listening to it lots. I've been listening to it a lot. I've been getting into Frank.
Can I say the reason why I put it on Facebook is because I had a complete breakdown one morning, and I was singing basically the whole of Frank's Firm Favourites EP to my wife. And I thought I need to get it out of my head and share it with other people.
I bet she enjoyed that.
As our father has said before, a problem shared is a problem forgotten about. Exactly. And I'd completely forgotten about the fact that on Frank's Firm Favourites, there's a version of Every Breath You Take by the Police.
There is. Anyway, go away and listen to that, people. Yes. But I've interrupted your outro bit, as I do, because I'd quite like to play. Well, you remember the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yes.
Right? I want to do 6 degrees of Frank Sidebottom.
Okay.
Are you ready for that?
Okay, go for it.
Right? It may be less than 6 degrees. You might have to count it, right? So anyway, you've got Frank Sidebottom, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Genius, right? But obviously, Frank Sidebottom was a character played by a man called Chris Seavey.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Chris Seavey, before he was Frank Sidebottom, in 1981, he was in a band called the Freshies, which were a kind of a punk band, the Freshies. And they actually had a song called I'm in Love with the Girl on a Certain Manchester Megastore Checkout Desk, which is a great title for a song. And you worked on a certain Derby Megastore Checkout Desk, didn't you, Steve? They also did a song called I Can't Get Bouncing Babies by Teardrop Explodes, which is one of the most sad and most beautiful songs I've heard in a long time. Go and listen to it. Anyway, that's the Freshies, right? You need to listen to them.
Okay.
Anyway, so Chris Seavey was in this band with Billy Duffy. What did he go on to do, Steve?
He was in the Cult.
He was in the Cult.
He was in the Cult.
Yeah, little devil. Yeah, and
yes,
the drummer was a fellow called Martin Jackson. Now, Martin Jackson left the Freshies and went on to join a band called Swing Out Sister. In 1985. He was the drummer on their breakout hit, Breakout. Brilliant song, I want it. And she was lovely, wasn't she? Corinne Drury.
She was.
Right? Anyway, it's brilliant. Anyway, Corinne Drury, this is a part of family history. Corinne Drury was from Nottingham, and her mum was called Elaine. And our dad was friends with her. Apparently, this is what he said. Corinne's mum was a very good friend to me when I was a teenager, and she ran a dog grooming business off Beeston High Road called Poodle Trim. And Corinne would only be 3 or 4 when I met her. Her dad, Ray, was in a band called Junko Partners, and they were a cut above the usual bands I came across at the time. Anyway, that's my dad's words. Anyway, so our dad knew Corinne Drury's mum. So I think that's only 3. Is that 3 or 4 degrees from Frank Sidebottom?
Frank Sidebottom, Martin Jackson, Corinne Drury, Johnny Domino.
There you go.
Actually, it's probably 4 or 5, but that's pretty good.
Can anyone do better than that? How many degrees of Frank Sidebottom can you do?
Can I ask you a question? Did Dad really use the phrase "a cut above"?
He did. I'm reading the email. Yes.
Oh, it's an email. Okay.
Yeah. Cut above the usual bands I came across at the time. Why? Is that not the sort of thing he would say?
No, it just seems a bit of an odd one. Lovely stuff. Thank you again for listening to the This Are Johnny Domino podcast. If you're enjoying it, please share it with one other person and like and subscribe and listen whenever you can.
Do a review, because that helps us, I think, doesn't it, Steve?
It does something. It makes us feel better. And more importantly, send us your old recordings and send us your submissions to the songs from / about childhood.
Yeah. And also, go back to last episode, you could write some music for one of those weird lyrics that I wrote.
Yeah, they're really weird.
They're not that weird.
They're pretty weird.
Yeah, well, that's all right. Well, listen to this episode, it's full of weird stuff. I've enjoyed it, though, right? It's been fun. It's been a bit of a nighttime vibes episode. 1980s.
I'm Lester the Nightfly. Hello, Baton Rouge. That's one for the dads out there.
Please do like and subscribe to our podcast and recommend it to someone who you think might like listening to all this kind of weird shit. Send us some of your old music and enter the eternal halls of the 4-track gods.